Some people mistake Skarmory for a Generation 3 Pokemon, and you know what? I kinda wish they were right, and here's why. Skarmory excels in one category. It has boatloads of defense, but it really has not much else going for it. It's not got a particularly diverse learn set, it's not got particularly high special or physical attack, and its speed is quite middle of the road, and those things combined make for some of the toughest challenges we face here on the channel. A Pokemon like Skarmory always feels like it should be achieving great things, but because of its middling stats, it really does suffer, and I'm sure that's no spoiler if you've seen how long this video runs for compared to some of the more recent runs. But we're still going to give it a fair whack, and we'll start with the stats. We are level 5 with 22 HP, we're holding a berry, and our two moves are Leer and Peck. We've got 13 in attack, 20 in defense, just 9 in special attack, 12 in special defense, and 13 in speed. Those are the stats we're starting this run with. Let's see just how well or badly Skarmory will do. And we will of course start off with our very first wild encounter. It takes us a little while to get this one. We get through the first patch of grass completely scot-free. We do eventually encounter a level 2 Rattata and its 2 pecks to knock it out. With that done, we can make our way to our first rival battle, and this one should be relatively simple. It'll come as no surprise that we've got Cyndaquil as the starter, and that's because we are weak to the fire type. We knock the Cyndaquil out in 2 shots and we can start making our way towards the first gym together. This is Falkner's flying type gym, and this one should be relatively easy. Falkner can't hit us with anything that isn't resisted by us, so we should be able to get through this just by brute force alone. It was a couple of pecks on the Pidgey and 3 pecks on the Pidgeotto to knock it out, and we are through our first gym in a time of 7 hours and 16 minutes. But that is with Sprout Tower. The gyms don't get much harder from here either. We've got Bugsy next, the Bug-type specialist, and we are going to be resisting all of his moves as well. Fury Cutter's going to barely tickle us in this particular battle. We knock out the Scyther in 2 shots, growing to level 18 in the process, and then we can one-shot the Kakuna and we defeat Bugsy in a time of 12 minutes and 54 seconds. The celebrations cannot last for too long though, because we've got that all-important second rival battle straight around the corner. This time he's going to have Quilava on his team, and this time he's going to have a fire-type move. Ghastly's completely irrelevant, we can get through that in one shot, and here comes Quilava. Ember stings us a little bit, but it's not as bad as it could have been. We recover using a berry to get back up to 33 HP, and then we can 2-shot the Zubat to finish that off, and we are through the second rival battle in 14 minutes and 35 seconds. Let's try and keep this early game pace up against Whitney. We are still in the easy part of this run, so we need to take advantage where we can. Whitney's not going to have anything too bad to damage us with. Rollout isn't going to hit us very hard at all, it's neutral because of our steel and flying type, and we can just finish it off with a few swifts. We get through Whitney in a time of 20 minutes and 41 seconds, and now we can move on to the Burnt Tower, where the third rival battle is waiting for us. We've got Hidden Power on the learn set by now, and we've also got Mud Slap, just to try and give us some protection against both those pesky steel and pesky fire type Pokemon. It's going to be a one-shot on the Magnemite with Mud Slap, and here comes Quilava. We use Mud Slap to try and lower the accuracy, but we do have that curse working against us. We knock out the Quilava with a Hidden Power Rock on turn number 2, we finish off the Zubat with Hidden Power Rock as well, and we are through the third rival battle in under half an hour. Let's fall through the floor and magically end up in Morty's Ghost and Poison Dual-type Spectacular Gym, where he's going to lead with Ghastly. We have the Minceberry equipped for this battle just in case of shenanigans with the Gengar, but we are already on a timer thanks to that pesky curse from the Haunter. Gengar didn't end up using Hypnosis, going for Mean Luck instead, so the rest of this battle should be relatively trivial. Even with a Curse and a Nightshade, we would have got through that, but we get through Morty on our first try in 31 minutes and 19 seconds. Let's now sail across the open seas to Cyanwood City, where Chuck is waiting for us. He's a fighting type specialist who leads with Primeape. Primeape gets a Leer off, so our in-battle defense is only 73, and then we get our own Leer off on the Poliwrath. We use Mud Slap to try and reduce Dynamic Punch's overall accuracy, remembering that we're trying to keep hold of the Bitterberry for the Karen fight much later on. We consume the Minceberry as we get through the Poliwrath, and we defeat Chuck in a time of 33 minutes and 44 seconds. Our next gym leader is going to be Pryce. He is the Ice-type specialist of the region who leads with a very not Ice-type Seal. We use a pair of Hidden Power Rocks on the Seal to take care of it, and here comes Dugong. We We use Hidden Power Rock to take it deep into the yellow because it's super effective and another Hidden Power Rock knocks it out. And then we're going to keep on with the Hidden Power for the Piloswine. This is one of those times where Pryce is actually a fair bit of a threat. Hidden Power Rock is still the best damaging move we have against the Piloswine, so we really just have to hope that Blizzard misses. We know that Seal and Dugong are fairly irrelevant in this battle, and this time we change strategy. We're going for Leer against Piloswine instead of going straight out for attacking. For some reason Pryce decides to use Fury Attack, which is fine by me. That means we can very comfortably one-shot the Piloswine without being in any danger of getting knocked out, and we earn the Glacier Badge in 39 minutes and 33 seconds. Let's now move on to Jazz. This is one of the gym leaders I've been dreading. She's a Steel-type specialist just like ourselves, and she leads with Magnemite. The first thing we've got to do is dodge those Thunder Waves. We had the Soft Sand to try and make sure our attack was as high as possible, and now we've got to try spamming everything we can against this Steelix. We're going to start off with a bunch of Leers to get its defense as low as possible, and we are just going to try and tank these Iron Tails. It's going to be a slog, but I think we might just be able to do it. We get Jasmine to heal, we critical hit with Mud Slap, we knock it out on another turn later, and we have defeated Jasmine in a time of 43 minutes and 41 seconds. Are you spotting the pattern though? We are now not strong enough to consistently one-shot a lot of Pokemon because of our relatively mediocre attack. Even this Golbat with a super effective Hidden Power Rock was a two-shot. And then despite holding the Soft Sand and having a quad super effective move for the Magnemite, we still end up getting paralysed because we didn't knock it out in one. We then take a fair amount of damage from Flame Wheel, our accuracy is lowered, but we just about scrape through the Quilava. Fortunately, we've got two relatively easy Pokemon coming up. We can one-shot the Haunter, and now as long as we don't get paralysed against the Sneasel, we just about scrape through this battle. That was a lot trickier than it ought to have been though, and this will now be reflected in the Clair battle, because we're not going to be able to one-shot the Dragonair. We get Thunder Waved and I instantly go on the grind. We're not wasting any time at all here. We grow to level 47 courtesy of Hiker Michael, and we keep on gaining those levels. I want to make this Clair battle as easy as possible. We get to level 48 off Alan, and then we try again. But even at level 48, we're not consistently one-shotting these Dragonair. We high roll against the second Dragonair, but then we low roll against this third Dragonair. Thunderwave connects, and now we're paralysed for the rest of this battle. I decided to try and still give it a go, because we're in that sweet spot where Clair isn't going to be able to do too much damage to us. As long as we get 3 returns to connect, we're able to defeat Clair, and we obtain the Rising Badge in a time of 1 hour, 4 minutes and 39 seconds. This is where our pace is starting to slow down. We are now struggling in this run. Let's see if we can at least have a clean final rival battle. We one-shot the Sneasel with return, that's to be expected, and here comes another pesky Magneton. We get paralysed just like we did against the Clair fight, so now we have a stasis condition for the rest of this battle. Flame Wheel hits us relatively hard and it's not going to be a one-shot, but Smokescreen thank goodness missed on turn number 2. Wing Attack's not going to do much, but now we're confused as well as paralysed. It was a very short confusion though, and we eventually knock out the Golbat. That means we've just got the Haunter and the Kadabra left to go. We're confused once more, but we knock out the Haunter with a single Steel Wing. We swap to return for the Kadabra, we make connection on our first attempt, and we just about scrape through the rival thanks to some excellent RNG. We're now going to heal up because my goodness we absolutely need it in this run, and we'll say thank you to the HM friends. So it's thank you to Kenya, to Abra, to Psyduck and to Parrish. You've been a great help slogging through the Johto region. Get yourselves some well-deserved rest while Skarmory prepares to take on the Pokemon League. Just before we go in, we're going to take a look at our stats, and they're not great. We are level 52 with 159 HP, holding the Pink Bow with Return, Mudslap, Hidden Power Rock, and Steel Wing. We have 126 in attack, a whopping 186 in defense, just 84 in special attack, 115 in both special defense and speed. Those of course are the out of battle stats. Will get a big buff in battle, as we'll see now against Will. He is our first Elite Four member. He's a Psychic type specialist who leads with Xatu. And I tell you what, I am incredibly glad that the Pokemon League has a glaring weakness to Rock. We get through the Xatu in one turn, and then we can start trying to get through this Slowbro. 3 returns knocks it out, and here is another Xatu. Hidden Power Rock is just a ticket for that Xatu as well, and we can keep on going with that against the Jinx. We one-shot the Jinx and the final Pokemon is Executor. We can use Return against the Executor as we get Leech Seeded, that's meaningless in this battle though, and we survive on full health. Let's move on to Koga, the second Elite Four member. He's a Poison type specialist who leads with Ariados. And once again, there is the weakness to Rock. We don't one-shot the Ariados, but we're able to knock it out in 2 Hidden Power Rocks, so he sends out Fortress. We don't have anything great for the Fortress. We try a Hidden Power Rock a few times, but even if this thing goes boom, it's not going to be the end of the world. We spam Hidden Power Rock for all it's worth and we eventually knock it out, and then we move on to Muck. I decided to use Mud Slap against the Muck because it's on the learn set and it's going to do just about as much as anything else, especially with all these acid armors. Thank goodness he cannot heal the Muck as we eventually brute force our way to knock it out. We use Return on turn 1 against the Crobat, and another Return knocks it out, and the final Pokemon is Venomoth. We swap back to Hidden Power Rock for the Venomoth, we knock it out in one single hit, and that's Koga defeated on our first attempt in 1 hour 11 minutes and 39 seconds. Let's now challenge Bruno, the only Elite Four member without a Pokemon that is weak to Rock. He's going to start off with a Hitmontop that cannot dig because we're parts flying type, so 2 quick attacks barely tickles us. We one-shot the Hitmonchan with Return, and here comes the big guns. It is Machamp. It's going to be a comfortable 2-shot against the Machamp as Cross-Shot barely does any damage whatsoever. Legs the Hitmonlee's not going to do anything either, and the final Pokemon is Onix. We have Steel Wing for Onix, it's going to be a one-shot with Stab, and we defeat Bruno in 112-24. Our final league member is Karen. She is of course the Dark-type specialist who leads with Umbreon. I decide in this instance to not lead with the Bitter Berry. I decide to give it one go without the Bitter Berry, and it seems to work in our favour. Sand Attack fails against the Umbreon, but once again our relatively paltry attack comes into play. We don't one-shot the Houndoom, and now we're only on 53 HP for the rest of this battle. We still wing the Gengar as it takes it out with Curse, and then we swap to Hidden Power Rock for the Murkrow. We've got 53 HP for the final Vileplume. We start off with a Return to take it into the yellow, and thank goodness Stunspore missed. That gave us the in we needed to get through Karen on our first attempt in 1 hour 13 minutes and 25 seconds. And now there is only one obstacle between us and the Hall of Fame. It's time for Lance the Liar with the Flyers, and he leads with Gyarados. This is going to be a bit of a war of attrition. We aren't going to be able to one-shot these Dragonite, so we have a roughly 50-50 chance of getting through the Dragonite without being paralysed, and we absolutely need that because otherwise we're going to get busted by the Flamethrower. We get lucky on our first attempt here and we can move on to the Charizard. We outspeed the Charizard and we knock it out in one shot, and that means we have a chance for the rest of this battle. Fire Blast hits like a truck and hits us twice in a row, and that means we have to take a reset. Here is the issue with Skarmory. It's only got base 80 attack. That wouldn't be so bad on its own, but when you combine that with a slow level up group, you have a recipe for an incredibly tough league. We've been able to survive so far, but the way this Pokemon League has turned out, it's got me incredibly worried for later on, especially the blue and red fights. We'll cross those bridges when we come to them though, and this time Dragonite locks itself into Outrage. That gives us everything we need to then get through the rest of this battle because a super effective Steel Wing knocks out the Aerodactyl, and we have defeated Lance in a time of 1 hour 15 minutes and 52 seconds. That gives us our Hall of Fame time of 1 hour 16 minutes and 8 seconds, but this is only half of the story. We've got another 8 gym badges plus the red fight left to come, so don't you dare go anywhere. Kanto is next. And we rejoin the action here in Vermilion City, where the first thing we do in Kanto is the last thing we do in Johto. We're going to get another rare candy, this time from the chairman of the Pokemon Fan Club. And with that safely tucked away in our bag, I am just about confident enough that Skarmory can do our regular Kantonian routing. This one was a bit of a coin flip. I decided in the break between the Hall of Fame and starting the Kanto section that I was at least going to show Skarmory some of the respect it deserves and give it a chance to do the regular routing because I think that's going to be quickest for it. We'll have to see if that was a misplay as we go through this Kantonian Gym Leader Gauntlet. But during this time, I'm going to have a little bit of a whinge about Skarmory and explain exactly why I'm not a big fan of it. It's not all about the stats. My intense dislike for Skarmory actually started in the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire days. I used to be quite a big shiny hunter back in the day, and one of my targets for the longest time was Skarmory over on Route 113 in Hoenn. I was using the dex nav method to try and get a shiny Skarmory, because if I'm going to get one, I at least want to have one with decent stats. We've all seen how low its attack really is. And after a very long time of using the dex nav, seeing regular Skarmory after regular Skarmory, I find one. I take it down to 1 HP with false swipe, but I did not notice it had an egg move. And which egg move did it have? It had bloody Brave Bird. So there I was, casually whittling down its HP because it's got an absolutely abysmal catch rate. I use paralysis on it because I think that's going to be the most consistent thing so I don't have to keep waking it up. And then out of nowhere, you'll never guess what it did. It used Brave Bird to knock itself out. I was so incredibly annoyed at this Skarmory, and that really sowed the seeds for my disdain of this line. But it doesn't stop there, because this isn't the first time I've tried getting Skarmory through Pokemon Crystal. This is in fact my third attempt at it. The first time was when the channel was relatively new, so I just went in with perfect DVs. I thought to myself, 80 in attack isn't that bad, we won't need any kind of special hidden power type, and we ended up getting walled by Lance. After spending 40 minutes banging my head against a brick wall at Lance, I decided to give up on the run, and I recorded something else in its place. And then around about a year ago, I went for the Skarmory run again, thinking I'm a lot more au fait with the game now. Surely I can get further than Lance. But that time, I went in at a much lower level than I did this time. Instead of going for the grind at Clair, I just brute forced my way through that battle. And once again, we got walled by Lance. We weren't consistently two-shotting the level 47 Dragonite, which meant we were having to dodge 4 Thunder Waves instead of 2, and then combine that with the fact that we still had to get through the fire-blasting level 50 Dragonite. We spent around about 25 minutes at the league that time, and then I gave up and threw in the towel once more. Sometimes it does pay off to know when to just give up on a run, because it's not going to be a fair reflection of the Pokemon's abilities, and sometimes the luck just doesn't go your way. But goodness me, it leaves a bitter taste in your mouth when you come to run this Pokemon for the next time. And I have been trying to think of ways to improve Skarmory. It doesn't really feel like it needs an evolution to get better. I think it just needs that little buff in its base attack. If we had base 100 attack, this run would be entirely different, and I would be singing Skarmory's praises. But what do you think? How would you improve this Pokemon? Because it definitely needs something. Especially considering this is one of the first Steel-type Pokemon we will ever see, and as an introduction to the Steel-type, it's incredibly lackluster. When you consider its abysmal catch rate, you'd think this thing is pseudo-legendary, but it just falls short. But that's enough of my whinging, I'm sure you're all fed up of it by now. Let's rejoin the action here at the Blue fight. Blue is of course our final gym leader of the run, and he's going to lead with Pidgeot. We get off to a false start because Pidgeot uses Whirlwind, so we pause the timer to deposit the HM friends and then go into this battle with Skarmory being the only Pokemon in our party. We two-shot the Pidgeot with Steel Wing, and up next is Arcanine. Instead of attacking, Arcanine goes for Roar, and we'll absolutely take that because that made Arcanine incredibly free. We swap to Steel Wing for the Alakazam, but it misses, and that means the Reflect is up for the next 5 turns of this battle. We two-shot the Alakazam though, and we can move on to Gyarados. Hidden Power's taking roughly a quarter of the damage off from the Gyarados, but a pair of Hydro Pumps knocks us out. I really don't know why they made Steel Wing such a low accuracy move. A 90% accuracy move with just base 70 power that you obtain in the post-game via TM is just not good enough, because stuff like that sets you up for a fall, which is exactly what we saw against this Alakazam. Steel Wing one-shots on our second try as we are able to hit first time, and that means Reflect is not up for the Gyarados. We make up for our bad luck in the last attempt by getting a critical hit against the Gyarados, and then we can start Steel Winging this Executor. Solar Beam's barely going to tickle us as he gets caught in a little bit of a healing loop. It's a bit of a range here on the Executor, but we're able to 3-shot it on our next attempt, and the final Pokemon is Rhydon. This is going to be a comfortable 2-shot against the Rhydon with Steel Wing to defeat Blue in a time of 1 hour 33 minutes and 10 seconds. And that means we have all 16 gym badges acquired. There is now only one battle between us and our final leaderboard time. It is of course Red, and he leads with Pikachu. The first thing you'll probably notice is our speed is 157. That is not enough to outspeed the Pikachu. That means we're going to have to dodge the Thunders and the Charms. We critical hit the Pikachu, so we're at least able to see how bad this Charizard is going to be, and it'll come as no surprise, we get one shot. We're going to use our first 3 rare candies here, growing up to level 65. We're still not outspeeding the Pikachu here. Our speed is 164 versus Pikachu's 171, and we end up getting a lot of damage from Thunder. We use another 3 rare candies straight away. There's no point in trying to brute force a battle that's just not going to be winnable. At level 68, we outspeed the Pikachu, but we're not able to one-shot it with return. So we're going to use our last rare candy straight away. We're going all the way up to level 72. Our speed is now 181, and this is a little bit of a breakthrough in terms of our speed. We're able to outspeed the Pikachu, and we're able to outspeed the Charizard. That means we're at full health for the Espeon. Of course, Espeon sets up a Reflect, and that is terrible for us. Our physical defense is great, but our special defense is relatively modest. We've only got an in-battle special defense of 161, and that means we're taking a lot of damage from every Psychic. We're in a very bad way when we knock out the Espeon, and then we get knocked out ourselves by the Snorlax. We're changing strategy ever so slightly here. We have taught our Skarmory how to say all those naughty swear words. We're going to try something different here against the Pikachu as well. If we use Sandstorm, it means that we can one-shot the Pikachu, but it does mean we're going to have to do the Charm Dodge. That's also going to give us that little bit of extra damage against the Charizard to guarantee the one-shot. I think it would have been fine either way, but this chip damage that Sandstorm does can really turn the battle in our favour. We get through the Espeon fairly easily this time, surviving on 117, and now we can start swearing against the Snorlax. The trouble is here we are very likely to get paralysed by Body Slam. I decide not to get too ambitious with the swearing here, and we only use a couple of swears before we knock out that Snorlax. We know that Venusaur can barely tickle us at all. The best move it's got is Solar Beam, and we're going to resist that. But unfortunately for us, he gets a critical hit. That means we're only on 30 HP for the Blastoise, and Surf sends us right back to square one. I'm not sure if we would have survived even without that critical hit from the Venusaur, but in the moment it really felt like that was the game swearing at me because I decided to use curse strategies. But we are nothing if not persistent, so let's give it another go. We know roughly how to get through the Pikachu, and we are back onto the Charizard. Sandstorm combined with a Hidden Power guarantees the one-shot, so we can move back onto Peskeon. If Peskeon doesn't reflect, it's going to make this battle easier, but we don't know exactly what it's going to do. On this reset, we get incredibly lucky, and it does the double Psychic, and that means we can knock it out with a pair of returns, and then start hunkering down against this Snorlax. We're holding the leftovers, and we don't really care if we get paralysed. And I will say it was a very fine line to determine the exact number of curses I wanted to use here. In the end, I settled on 4 curses, because I thought that should be more than enough to take care of this Snorlax. As it happened, even with 4 curses, we weren't able to one-shot the Snorlax, and as a parting gift, it paralysed us. But that should be okay. We get through the Venusaur on our very first turn, and we are now on 195 HP for the Blastoise. We take it deep into the red on turn 1, but then we're paralysed and get sent back to the beginning. All that time cursing against the Snorlax was for nothing in that attempt. If the RNG had just gone in our favour for one more turn, we would currently be looking at the leaderboard. That didn't happen with Skarmory though. Skarmory's attack just wasn't quite high enough, even with 5 curses. And that means we're going to have to go full stall against this Snorlax. We're going to start off with a Sandstorm to start whittling away at its HP a little bit, and then we're going to get to 6 curses. We don't care if we're paralysed or not, we just want to one-shot anything that comes in front of us. And we really do have to dig our heels in against this Snorlax. This is going to be one of the longest times we have the same Pokemon in front of us in a single battle. But we are going to have to stall this thing out to try and regain as much HP as possible. Sandstorm helps here because it's going to get Snorlax into the rest range, and that's going to give us a free turn of healing. We're then going to start wasting our turns even more by pressing Sandstorm until our health is as high as it possibly can be. We don't care about getting flinched by Snore because we're still going to be gaining more health than we lose on every single turn. He throws a spanner in the works, so of course he does, by getting a critical hit on Body Slam, so that means we're going to have to keep on stalling. I want to take absolutely no risks for the end of this battle. We have been bitten twice before by that Blastoise, and third time is definitely not going to be on the cards. We are just going to keep spamming every single move we have that's not going to knock out this Snorlax until our health is as high as it possibly can be. Once we run out of Sandstorms, we do a redundant curse for good luck, and then we grit our teeth and hope for the best. We know we're going to be able to one-shot the Charizard. We've got in battle 787 attack. And if we've got to be fully paralysed at any point in this battle, now is the time to do it, because it means we regain a little bit more health, and we are on 181 for the Venusaur. Solar Beam barely tickles us, we quad resist it and we knock it out in one shot, and here comes the Blastoise. As long as we can get one hit off on this Blastoise, we win, and it eventually happens. We knock it out with an unnecessary critical hit, and we are finally through this run in 1 hour 47 minutes and 39 seconds. And goodness me, this was not a pleasant run from start to finish. That time of 1:47.39 barely puts Skarmory on the second page of the leaderboard. It's pretty much guaranteed to get knocked down with the very next run, and of course that means there's no change to the front of the leaderboard. It's still Ho-Oh in first, Pidgeot in second, and Girafarig in third, with Aerodactyl in the page 1 drop zone. Unfortunately, Tauros has been knocked down into page 3, rather unfairly if you ask me, and of course Paw Shuckle is down in 86th place. But with that, we are done. Even though it was a bit of a nightmare run, I still had fun doing it. I hope you had fun watching it. If you did, remember to leave a like. If you want to see more runs just like this, then leave it in the comments down below. And until next time, when we have the pleasure of running Golem through the Gen 2 Gauntlet, I'll say thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon.